Welcome back folks, I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. Thanks for joining us for another video. Now, my pair of Nike Ultraflys are looking a little bit worse for wear now. And this is a perfect example of why I think trail running shoes shouldn't be in a white colourway here in the UK. These looked lovely when I first took them out of the box and now they look pretty terrible. So I really wanted to test out the Ultrafly thoroughly, running an ultra marathon in them. So last weekend myself and Liga took on the super challenging ultra marathon on the island of Jersey called Round the Rock in some terrible weather conditions. And in fact, Storm Anthony was blowing full force with 60-mile-an-hour gusting winds. So let's dive into the video, find out what went down in the race, how these ended up looking like this, but more importantly, how the carbon-plated super trail shoe from Nike performed on the day. We have started the Round the Rock race, and the first part of the route of the Round the Rock is perfect for the Nike Ultraflys because we're on tarmac, and we all know that Nike trail shoes always run really well on the road, but with the weather conditions, it's going to be interesting to see how it holds up when we hit the trails, how wet they're going to be, how muddy they're going to be, because we know there's only a 3mm lug on the outsole, so if it is muddy out there, we might be slipping and sliding all over the place. But so far, the shoe feels great, comfortable. Like I said, we're on the tarmac and it does run well there. But let's see what lies ahead. Okay guys, I'll give you a quick shoe update. We've just been through 10.5 miles in the race through the checkpoint, just having a bit of substance, a nice tasty Torque Explore flapjack, and we are hitting the trails. So hasn't really been a thorough test for the Nike Ultrafly yet because the first 10 miles is all on road and the shoe handles that pretty good. So in total I've done what, 30 miles in the shoes. They've bedded in okay. That midsole's definitely softened up a bit, that Zoom X compound, and the plate is definitely more flexible, but I still wouldn't say the performance is blowing me away. That midsole does feel quite firm. I would say the Endorphin Edge, the Mafate Speed 4, and even the Exodus Ultra actually seem to give me a fair bit more bounce and energy return from the midsole. So the fact that this is supposed to be a carbon plated super trail shoe, it's not really cutting it for me. It just honestly feels like a bog standard trainer, and I'd actually say the Nike Wild Horse 8 feels more comfortable and again more bounce, more energy return from that midsole. But we're going up the first hill. I'm knackered, but let's see how it gets on the trails. It's going to be quite wet and muddy judging by this. Had a fair bit of rain overnight, so it'll be interesting to see how that midsole and outsole perform out on the trails. So, quick update on the shoe front. The Nike Ultrafly is doing all right. It's been super technical, that section of trail. We've had mud, that 3mm lug did really struggle in mud. I was slipping and sliding about a bit. But like I say, super technical, muddy, rocky steps. It did okay. I definitely think the most outstanding feature is, funnily enough, the Vibram Mega Grip light base outsole, and Nike didn't really have anything to do with that. Great to have some rubber that gives you confidence when running on wet rock, but yeah, apart from everything else, it's doing all right. It's not blowing my mind, but it's actually performed better on that technical section of coast path than I thought it would. 18.3 miles done, we're getting there. We've reached the major checkpoint where we got a drop bag. As far as the Ultraflys are going, this is where it comes to crunch time. I've got my Exodus Ultra 2s in my drop bag. Do I switch them out? Do you know what guys? No, I'm going to risk it and we're going to give these Ultraflys a proper testing. Like I said back there, they performed a little bit better than I thought they would, but they're definitely not blowing my mind. But let's get those Exodus Ultras back in the bag. We're 21 miles into the race, so I think we've got about 27 miles to go. So let's get back out on the route. Let's keep testing these super shoes from Nike. Okay, so we just picked up a nice flat runnable section down by the front here, and the wind isn't quite as bad as it has been. So we are 32 miles into the run in the Ultraflys, and you know, I've always been a bit hard on Nike shoes, so credit where credit's due, and the upper of the Ultrafly is very comfortable. You know, I've got no rubbing, no hot spots, no irritation at all in the upper, and my feet actually feel in pretty good shape. Well, I've made it back to the hotel room in one piece. Myself and Liga managed to run all the way around the island of Jersey, and we have the medal to prove it. I actually kept the Ultraflys on my feet for the whole 46.5 miles with 2,000 meters of elevation. Some of the craziest weather I've ever run in an ultramarathon. Winds gusting up to 60 miles an hour. I had no trips, no slips, no accidents. In fact, the only thing I have got is a couple of achy, weary legs. But I guess the question is, if I can get the shoes off my feet, is the Nike Ultrafly the best sort of super trail running shoe I've ever used? And will I be using them to run an ultra marathon again? Well, I guess by the powers of YouTube, let's get back to Cornwall, let's get back in the studio and find out. Well, that was definitely a whistle-stop tour, that's for sure. So we flew into the island on Friday. We pretty much spent the whole of Saturday running around the island, starting at 7 in the morning, finishing 10.5 hours later. We ran on a bit of tarmac, some beautiful woodland trails, and some very windy coast path indeed. We ended up covering 46.02 miles with 6,800 feet of elevation, and all of that was run wearing these. So I reckon it must be one of the most thorough tests of the Ultrafly to date, and the results are kind of what I expected. So first up, let's start with all the positive stuff first, and I do find the upper on the Ultraflys very comfortable. Just the right level of padding for me around the ankle collar, in the heel and in the tongue, and we've obviously got that nice wide toe box, so plenty of wiggle room there, and it allowed for my feet to sort of expand over those 46 miles. It was wet, tricky, muddy conditions out there on the route, that is for sure, and sometimes that can cause your feet problems, but I'm happy to report I had no hot spots, no irritations, no blisters, no black toenails, which is definitely a good thing, especially when you're taking on a challenging ultra marathon. So I think the upper did a pretty good job. However, I did have a few issues when it comes to the laces and the lacing system, and I actually found it very hard to keep this shoe sort of locked down and secure, and it did work loose several times in the race, and I had to keep stopping, retying those laces just to get that nice secure hold around my midfoot. I actually mentioned it while we were running that I really like the Vaporfly laces in their road shoe, and they're brilliant at locking down and staying locked down, and I don't really understand why Nike didn't try and work in a similar lacing system and use those great laces in the Ultrafly. I think it would have been a much better choice, and I've actually found the laces and the lacing system pretty disappointing. Obviously, the other super positive thing is that I felt nice and confident underfoot when I was running on rocky trails, wet rocky trails, or slippery, greasy sections of tarmac, now that Nike have finally introduced Vibram Mega Grip light base rubber on the outsole of their trail shoe for the first time. I'm sure we're going to see this cross over to a lot of their other shoes because it really did make a difference on those rocky sections. However, I would really like to see a deeper lug, maybe 4 mil, 4.5 mil, because all the rain we had, there was some muddy sections. It wasn't terrible, but there was mud, and I was struggling for traction, slipping and sliding all over the place. And I definitely wouldn't want to be wearing these in the middle of a wet, muddy British winter. So I think a slightly deeper lug depth would definitely make the Ultraflys a lot more versatile. Also, with it having a pretty shallow lug, and we've got that Vibram Mega Grip light-based rubber on the outsole, which is very soft, because that's what makes it nice and sticky and grippy when you're running on those rocks. In the race we took on, we probably had about 15 to 16 miles of tarmac to run. Obviously, over the course of an ultra marathon, your running form starts to break down, you start to drag your feet and shuffle a bit, and I have pretty much worn some of those lugs on the outer edge of the heel on the shoe. Now, this isn't great to see. I've run 66 miles in total in this shoe, and they cost me £230. So to see that kind of wear on the outsole already, I personally don't think that is good enough, especially for a shoe that Nike tell us is designed for running ultra marathons. You know, if you took these out of the box, did a couple of training runs, and then ran a 100-mile race, say like Western States, that's got lots of compacted trails and long sections of road, I think that outsole would pretty much be shredded. And finally, let's talk all about that Zoom X midsole and how it performed over those 46 miles. It was a real varied route, and we did have some long sections of tarmac to soak up, like I just said. And I've got to say, if you are thinking of buying a pair of the Ultraflys because you love the feel of your Zoom X midsole on your Vaporflies or Alphaflies sort of road shoes, then I think you're going to be pretty disappointed, like I was really, because the midsole does feel quite firm, and I think that comes down to the covering. It's completely changed how that Zoom X compound from Nike feels underfoot, and like I said, it felt pretty firm, didn't feel like I was getting a lot of energy back at all. I've actually got several pairs of trail shoes that feel a lot more comfortable underfoot and feel like they're returning lots more energy. Things like Hoka Mafate Speed 4s, the Hoka Speed Goat 5s, also Exodus Ultra 1 and 2, Endorphin Edge from Saucony, even the strip back Hoka Zinel 2s feel more springy and more comfortable. And then you've got Nike's own Wild Horse 8 and even their Pegasus Trail 4. Personally, give me a lot more comfort and feel like they're giving me a lot more energy. So it really wasn't great when it comes down to that midsole comfort and performance. So wrapping up with a quick conclusion after our ultra test in the Ultraflys, and I suppose we better answer the question, are these the best sort of super trail shoes that I've ever run in? And the answer is definitely not, unfortunately. I had real high hopes for these, as I'm sure lots of you did out there, and I just feel a little bit let down, if I'm honest. The midsole isn't that comfy, it feels like it lacks a lot of bounce. That carbon plate is just too stiff in that midsole construction for me, and this is supposed to be a performance race day trail shoe, so I personally think that it's probably 30 or 40 grams too heavy. I think that the best way of summing up the Ultraflys and maybe the Nike trail running department is the biggest standout feature on this shoe is the rubber on the outsole, and that's made by a completely different company, Vibram, and not Nike. If you are thinking about picking up a pair of the Ultraflys, I really would think twice about it, because like I said, you know, for £230, I really have been disappointed, and I just find it's a shoe of contradictions. You know, it's not light enough, fast enough, snappy enough for running shorter, quicker trail races, and I just don't think it performs that well over longer distance either. So I would maybe go for a different option when it comes to your trail running shoes and give these a swerve. I actually had a few comments after our first impressions video how this shoe got athletes on the podium of Western States 100. Now, come on guys. Do you really think it was a pair of trail shoes that put those brilliant runners on the podium? Or was it their talent, their dedication, their commitment, years and years of hard work and training that did it? I think that might have had something to do with it. You know, they could literally put the boxes the shoes came in on their feet and probably perform just as well. And on that note, that is the end of the video. So like I said, the Ultraflys from Nike, a trail shoe I think a lot of us were really looking forward to. It was super hyped. Like I said, one of the most hyped running shoes from Nike, I feel. And again, I am left feeling a little bit disappointed. But At the end of the day, really hope you enjoyed the video, really hope you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe because it really is a big help to the channel. But until next time guys, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, it really is appreciated. And as always, stay safe and keep on running. So we're just coming up on one of the high points of the route on the headland here, and we wanted to show you these amazing giant puffins. And it's a little bit windy. It's probably about, I don't know, 50, 60 miles an hour. Right, we need to get off this headland quick, but the puffins are pretty cool. Let's run for cover, Ligos.